Pierre Poilievre on Mark Carney's Summer of George, which was just a delight.
But this really has been, as I said yesterday, the Seinfeld summer for Mark Carney, a big show about nothing. You know, I think specifically about George Costanza. You remember George Costanza? He was a legend. George Costanza had this great episode where he had this fancy, high-paying job with a corner office. And he didn't do any work, like literally none, but he wanted to look busy. So he would storm up and down the hallways carrying file folders. He would leave the lights on in his car in front of the office building on the weekend, even though he wasn't there. He would yell into the phone, even though no one was on the other end of the line. And they kept paying him because he looked so busy. I have to admit, Mark Carney has looked really busy this summer. He's been flying off to Europe to sign declarations of intent that actually mean absolutely nothing. He's been holding roundtables with other politicians. You've seen politicians patting each other on the back, congratulating themselves on all the excellent meetings they've been holding. There have been letters written to ministers that then get leaked to media and are reported with great fanfare on front pages everywhere. My goodness, he's almost as busy and as useless as George Costanza. It has been a big show about nothing. Nothing is getting done under Mark Carney. Everything is getting worse.
Yeah, I like that he ends on nothing's being done, everything's getting worse. So that is kind of what's being done, is just continuing the dumpster fire of what Canada is turning into under the Liberals' reign of terror. And the tariff, Carney campaigned on fighting back against Trump's tariffs. And here we are, nowhere further ahead. In fact, we're further behind. And now Carney's pivoted and said that we actually have a great deal. Our deal's worse. And he is now trying to gaslight everyone into believing that we had a great deal all along. And so I guess he didn't even really need to campaign against Trump and being elbows up because it all was good. It's crazy gaslight territory.
Well, and I think we're going to see the real Mark Carney, the Mark Carney of the United Nations, the Mark Carney of debanking and deinsuring oil and gas companies through GFANs, the Mark Carney of values. I think we're going to meet that guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right away. And it's in this video. His master plan to have investments in the decarbonization. Again, if you're in the developing world, you're probably looking at Canada like we're crazy. All the coal we're leaving in the ground. And now we're going to decarbonize. So we're not going to use the world's third largest reserves of oil and gas. We're not going to use those at all. I guess not. And I think this says bad things about a recently passed piece of legislation that I was talking about at the time, but everybody thought I was crazy. Anyways, let's just watch this.
From our perspective on climate competitiveness is to develop the competitiveness of our industries everywhere from the resource sector through to manufacturing, through to services, so that Canadian businesses can compete. We can grow foreign markets, we can grow jobs and sustainable jobs here in Canada. And in that regard, there's a series of measures that we're taking and will take, starts from the tax system and works its way out so that the investments in decarbonization are happening here in Canada. You will see some elements of that coming with the major projects when those announcements are made as well, but there'll be a more comprehensive approach for climate competitiveness as part of our global industrial competitiveness strategy, and you'll see that in the coming weeks.
Enjoy your carbon taxes, everybody. Climate competitiveness, when he says that, I'm like, what the hell are you even talking about, climate competitiveness? This is who we're competing against right now when it comes to oil and gas. Venezuela, the Americans, Iraq, Nigeria, Russia. Do any of those guys have carbon taxes? No. So when we go carbon competitive, we should be repealing everything related to greenhouse gas emissions or climate targets, because that's the only way that we become competitive with those nations. I don't know what he's proposing here, except turning C5, that's the major projects office that was created out of that, into the Green Slush Fund 2.0. We already saw this. They said that the STDC, the Sustainable Technology and Development Canada, which was like the first iteration of this nonsense, where we're going to select these nation building projects to get them built, and we're with a focus on decarbonization, on green projects. Guess what? A $200 million plus scam of basically insiders giving each other money for green projects with nothing to show for it. The Green Slush Fund 2.0, that's what we're getting out of C5. And so everybody who was like, yes, we're going to get a pipeline built. What I think is a nation building project, what normal people think are nation building projects, has never been what the Liberals thought were nation building projects. Every green dumb idea that Justin Trudeau ever had came from Mark Carney, Mr. Values. And now we're going to see it. And they might be a little bit more slippery about it, but everybody who pushed for C5 to get pushed through, this is what you got. This is what happened.
Yeah, it's once again Canadian taxpayers just bankrolling the Liberals' green pipe dream. I mean, look at the utter failure that electric vehicles are. Just on Friday, Carney announced
Decarbonization.
Yeah, well, and that they're scrapping their EV, the program to try to phase out all vehicles.
For only a year, though.
Right. But I mean, I think it's a step in the realization that these initiatives go nowhere without massive propping up by the government and the taxpayers, which, I mean, I guess, yeah, he here is saying that we're going to use the taxpayers for these decarbonization initiatives, and maybe EVs, this is just the pausing of a program for a larger investment. He probably has to talk to his friends at Brookfield to figure out what exactly the next investment's going to be before he can continue. But here's your net zero, Canadian taxpayers on the hook for it all.
Well, this is why they paused the electric vehicle program, and I don't think it had anything to do with them listening to Canadians. It's because Quebec just lost a pile of money on Northvolt. That's why. So they don't have capacity to force these things on us. It's not that they don't want to, and it's not that they won't. It's that this happened simultaneous with Northvolt and Quebec losing its shirt over investing in Northvolt. So that's what this is about. I don't color me a cynic when it comes to any of this stuff.
Well,
but
fair.
again, it's when they say nation building project and I say nation building project, we're speaking two entirely different languages. They would have said under C5, Northvolt was a nation building project. For sure they would have. And I would have said, no, Northern Gateway is. And I would have been wrong.
Yeah, and it follows a global trend of electric vehicle companies in the last roughly year or so going bankrupt, essentially, because the people just don't want electric vehicles. And especially here in Canada with our harsh climate, there is no infrastructure for electric charging stations. Batteries don't make sense in our harsh winters, and vast mileage required to reach from A to B in the Canadian landscape. So it just logically and reasonably, it just never made any sense.
No, we actually have a clip, by the way, on Carney and the ongoing devolution of our relationship with the Americans. He says Canada's economic future is caught up in a storm. Well, that's one way of putting that. You won't stop fighting with the Americans. Let's watch.
That economic future for our country is caught up in a storm. Caught up in a storm as the United States fundamentally reshapes all of its trading relationships. And to be clear, Canada currently has the best deal of any of the United States trading partners in the world. 85% of our trade with the United States has no tariffs. It's tariff-free. And we have the lowest average tariff rate of any country. But we've learned a lesson over the course of the last several months, is that our relationship with the U.S. is changing. And we can't rely on our most important trading relationship as we once did. You know, we can't control what other nations do,
but we can control our destiny. So we're focusing on what we can control and building our economic strength right here at home.
I love
it already.
Well, and he's like, our relationship with the US is changing. Well, that's a far cry from his
It's over.
insane,
Remember?
his insane rhetoric during the campaign trail, where he on multiple occasions repeated that our relationship with the United States is effectively over, is
Right.
what Mark Carney was bringing to the table during his campaign trail. And now he's saying, oh, it's changing. And they're changing the way that they do trade. Well, guess what, Canada? We're being left in the dust because we have complete ineptitude. I can't even, the words that I want to use are not appropriate.
Well, and then couple this with the nonsense about decarbonizing the economy. He says we have to make our economy stronger. Well, you cannot decarbonize it then. You cannot. We know all those initiatives fail. Mm-hmm. They are failing as we speak. And it jeopardizes our electrical grid. So you can't even manufacture the things you want to manufacture at home because we don't have enough capacity, because we've all switched to green electricity, and green electricity is so much more expensive. So it makes manufacturing goods at home so much more expensive. Actually, during the McGuinty era of Ontario, that was a real problem with manufacturing there. And that's why you lost so much manufacturing, is because of the pursuit of green energy there. And so he's hell-bent on doing it to everybody now instead of just having it happen in Ontario.
And welcome to rolling brownouts, everyone, when we rely on one inappropriate form of energy in, again, Canada's harsh climate without the infrastructure in place. And why do we have to change a good thing, right? We have reliable, consistent, dependable energy. Let's stick with it.
Let us burn coal. Alberta digs coal, We'll worry about other forms of generating electricity when the coal's gone. Let's start thinking about 100 years out from when the coal's gone, which means 700 years from now. We've got a lot of time to sort this one out if they just let us.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, Canada is already a vast landscape with endless forest. Rainforests. Mm-hmm. We are a carbon neutral country. This is craziness to talk about this net zero agenda, the green pipe dream, decarbonization. And meanwhile, China, who we emit a drop of carbon, it's a drop in the bucket of the amount of carbon that is emitted, and unfettered, unabated, and only continuing to grow out of China. And their economy continues to grow. They continue to boom. And here we are in Canada stuck on this net zero nonsense when our country in and of itself and its vast forested rainforest greenland is carbon neutral. It's unscientific.
Tamara, you don't care about carbon competitiveness? I mean, come on, Tamara. Listen up, Calgary. Our Rebel News 10th birthday bash is almost here, and we want you there. But early bird ticket sales end this Monday night at midnight. After that, prices go up, no exceptions. So lock in your spot now for an unforgettable night of fun, food, free speech, and music. And don't worry, Toronto, we didn't forget about you. We've got a birthday bash coming your way in October. Head on over to happybirthdayrebel.com. Grab your tickets today before the deadline passes you by.